Hi everybody, my name is Isaac. I'm the Director of Training here at the Middleby Innovation Kitchen. Today we're going to be replacing a gas valve on this Pitco fryer. Okay, so we're going to be removing and replacing this millivolt gas valve on this Pitco fryer today. We're going to start by unwiring the wires from the gas valve. We're going to move from that point and we're going to disconnect the pilot tube and then finally removing the gas valve from the unit itself. You guys always want to make sure when you're removing wires, no matter how simple the job may be, it's always a good idea to take a picture of the wires before removing them. If you don't and you start to wonder, there is a schematic on the inside of every door. Notice I'm not taking the screws all the way out. All of these are fork terminals, so they will pull off without taking the screws all the way out. Just like that. Get these wires out of the way. You may or may not need to remove the vent tube. In this case, I think we can do that after we get the valve out. Rotate it back and forth here. Helps that nut come out of there a little bit easier. We'll flex that right out of the way. Make sure your cap tubes are out of harm's way whenever you're doing this. Also, I didn't mention, which I already did, make sure the gas is shut off down there. Being a compression fitting like that, once it breaks loose, usually you can get it by hand if there's not too much grease migration down there. Let that flex line dangle there. We'll do the same thing with the top here. And we're removed. Okay, now that we have our gas valve removed from the unit, we're going to be removing both the vent tube here as well as these two fittings right here so that we can change the bracket over to our new valve. Start by removing the vent tube, the easy one. When you place this back on there, you just want to make sure that the vent part is going to be facing down. The issue I'm running into here is the bracket is not allowing me to get a good bite, and it's only biting on the swivel. So what I need to do is I need to get that bracket bent in a little bit like that so that we can get a better bite on it. On one. Now, when you're removing the second one, you always want to make sure that you're gripping on the shoulder of the gas valve here, because if you're gripping anywhere else, you can ruin this gasket right here and it will leak gas. Okay, so now that we have both fittings removed along with the vent tube, it's as simple as remounting the new valve into the new bracket. Okay, we're gonna go with our reassembly of our gas valve here. Now, normally during reassembly, you will be getting some brand new ones of these and you need to use them because you see what happened to the old ones as they were in the process of getting taken off. So make sure that you utilize those new ones whenever you do, otherwise you will leak gas right here where this fitting is. So we're gonna start by making sure that our gas valve is oriented in the proper direction. Taking note that this hook right here was where our pilot tube went, so that's going to be our incoming side of the valve. You can see the incoming side of the valve because it says in right there. So we're going to go ahead and set that in our bracket, and get some thread sealant on our threads here. Always want to start by hand. That way you ensure that you do not cross thread. Always want to use thread sealant instead of PTFD tape. After you get them started by hand, you get your tools adjusted here. Mine should still be adjusted properly. And it's just as simple as working them against each other, making sure not to grip where I gripped whenever you were doing the removal, because these are going to be new pieces in there. Always want to make sure you leak test your fittings after you get it reinstalled in the unit, but there we have our fittings reattached. We'll reattach our vent tube here. This does not need to be real tight in the valve. Just kind of snug it on there where it's not going to work its way loose. Always want to have this fitting facing down. Careful not to kink in half. There you go. Now we're ready to go back in the fryer. Okay, we're ready to install our valve back in our fryer. Always want to make sure when you're installing the valve that you install the input side of the valve to the incoming gas. Go ahead and do that first. Always like to put it on the flex line first. And up here, we'll go ahead and get this one started. Once you get it tightened, you'll obviously want to have a backup on there so that you can keep anything from moving that's not supposed to be moving. Notice there's no thread sealant on the flare fittings. Those are compression style fittings, so no need to put thread sealant on there. All right, pretty snug. We'll go ahead and put a backup on there and give them one final snug here. Now that we've got it rebounded in the unit, we can go ahead and reconnect our pilot flex tube. Also starting it by hand, those things will cross thread easily because that brass is pretty soft. All right, now that we've got our pilot tube reconnected here, we are going to rewire the unit. 2 reds up top. As I mentioned when we were disassembling, always want to have these wires nice and snug. Turn the gas on, checking for gas leaks, and you are ready for testing.